So a lot of it has to do with things like server caps for the realm. So if you look at things like in Dark Age of Camelot, we have a server cap. Every MMO has a server cap. There's a certain number of players that you can let online that the server can handle. That's the way it is. So if you look at Dark Age of Camelot, or if you look at Worlds of Warcraft, they cap by the server. We cap by the realm. So you can't have over a certain number of players in that realm, and you can't have over a certain number of players in this realm. And there's things that we can do to balance that out.
No, I mean, for example, a guild decides with 500 members to go online on Saturday at 1 o'clock. And at the other side, only 100 players are online. Total, what happens? So that guild with 500 members will get everything.
So the way the game works, the game isn't designed to allow for quick domination of the world. The zone control happens on a daily basis, or can happen on a daily basis. Campaigns happen over weeks. So the ability for one guild or one massive group of players to come online and dominate the world in an afternoon is impossible. We don't let it happen. So that kind of answer your question? It definitely will go back and forth, and there's a lot of tools that we put in place as far as whether they be bonuses to any given side, whether they be incentives for new players to come to that server, whether they be population caps that we can vary depending upon the time of day and who else is online. There's a lot of things that we're doing to make sure that we try to alleviate those problems. Will there be those kind of problems? Potentially.
Yeah, potentially this is the game that is created for base ranking, because since one faction, one realm can achieve so much of an advancement over the other one, that they will just keep on nuking their city.
So the way that it's set up, we try really hard to also benefit the losers, if you will, so the weak sides, to try to balance them up and provide benefits in such a way that they don't just get dominated by one side.
So you're saying the campaign with the God of the City Siege will last a couple of weeks or only days? So
the campaign in City Siege probably happens every week to 2 weeks, where you've actually pushed into an enemy's capital city. Once that happens, so somebody captures your city, the last thing that we want is for the winners to win all the time and for the losers to be losers. It sucks to lose. So we try to provide as many incentives as we can for the losers to take back their city, actually reward them for taking back their city. And if the losers can't recapture, we'll help them recapture. So right now we're working on timetables like 12 to 18 hours. So 12 to 18 hours after the winners capture your city, things start to happen in the world. Namely, we give artificial bonuses to the losers so that they can take their cities back. We want the losers to take back what was theirs and start that whole process over again.
Yeah, the problem is that if the losers are just bad, one side is just the players are not as good, they will always lose in the longer.
What we found in Dark Age of Camelot is that wasn't true. We had the same concerns, and for a month that might be true.
Well,
and then
I tend to disagree.
Okay, you can disagree. It's okay. So what would happen is if we do our job right, more players will come online, and we'll incent more players to come online who maybe aren't so bad, and we'll incent that realm and give bonuses to that realm so that they can actually win.
The problem is that people don't want to play on the loser's side, so they will just start quitting their realm and moving to another, or just switching servers. So
it's our job to try to prevent that, and we're going to do the best that we can.
It will be tough.
It will be tough.
So in what way does do the realms affect each other? I mean, both one is isolated from the Empire, at least.
How do they affect each other? So it's even though it's 6 races, it's only 2 realms. So it's the good guys and the bad guys. So what happens in the High Elf race actually affects what happens with Dwarf and Empire also. They're all on the same side. So if one realm is winning, that whole realm is winning. Does that make sense?
So you're measuring it with some general
exactly.
points or something.
Exactly.
Okay. Would it be possible for one realm to capture all 3 capital cities, or
probably no. The way we have it set up, that's not going to happen.
Will the city siege be instanced?
That's a great question. So the way that the capital cities work, we have so many people in a realm. There's potential for so many people online at the same time. And once we come down to a city raid, where there's basically the entirety of both realms is focused in one area, we need to be really careful with how we're balancing those populations, how we're ensuring server stability and great performance on the servers. So one of the things that's really important in an RVR game, unlike in a PvE game, is we want a whole bunch of people together. We want hundreds of players on screen at the same time. That's tough. So in cities specifically, we actually do a form of instancing where once we put in, and we're still playing with that number, we want the number to be as big as we can. So once we put in, let's call it 75 players on one side and 75 on the other, then we'll instance off the exact same thing again. So you'll have multiple instances of that city attack happening. The city attack happens in multiple phases. So you actually have the rush into the city itself, which is kind of the fight for the city, where you're fighting throughout the streets of the city, fighting in the war quarters. There's a form of zone control that happens in the capital cities. As you are being successful in each one of these instances, there's an overarching win or lose that's happening across all of those scenarios. Once either the defenders or the attackers win, those scenarios start to shut down and we start to filter you into the capital city itself, where you can start to participate in things like the king encounters and some public quests and go down and do all the kind of crazy dungeon raiding and stuff.
And
does that make sense?
You will use the siege weapons?
So siege for capital cities generally happens just outside when you're knocking down the gates. Inside the capital cities itself, I don't want a siege, mostly house-to-house fighting.
And besides siege weapons, are there, I don't know, like ladders or something like this?
For the cities themselves, no, they're not.
So the only way to break into the cities is to nuke the...
Break down the gates. Absolutely.
With the RAM as well, or just...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The big fight for the city is not actually the siege. Mm-hmm. It's the fight. It's after you break down the gates and you're in the city itself. We wanted that feeling of street-to-street fighting, of literally moving through the streets and capturing parts of the city.
Like in Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
So basically, when there is an attack, there is a siege. How does defenders defend? What can they do? I don't know, nuke the catapults or make some kind of right?
Both attackers and defenders have siege equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Some siege is made to attack gates, some siege is made to attack players, some siege is made to attack other siege. Mm-hmm. So it happens the same way on keeps, where you have siege emplacements on the keeps themselves, and then you also have siege emplacements outside of the keeps. So it becomes a game of attack and defend both the keep and the siege equipment itself.
So automatically the siege weapons are controlled by players? So
siege weapons are controlled by players, yes.
How are siege engines spawned?
So on each keep, outside of the cities, outside of the keeps, are siege pads. You can go and buy a siege kit, a ram kit, a catapult kit, whatever it happens to be. Just by having that kit, you can walk up to a siege pad. You can build your siege on that pad. Use it from there. Makes sense? So what we did in Dark Age of Camelot is we had siege you can push around the world. Like you could get in your ram and choo-choo and drive it all around. And it was silly. We wanted a little more control over the balance of keep takes so that we knew how many pieces of siege would be built in any given location for both attack and defense. So we've added different siege paths in and out that you can build siege on. And those are actually variable depending upon how well you're doing in the fight in that area. Like as you control things like more objectives in the skirmish area, that affects how many guards are with the keeps, affects how many siege paths are with the keeps. There's a lot of different pieces to that puzzle.
Will the keeps be similar to the one in Dark Age of Camelot?
Yes.
With upgrades and...
It's a great question. So, unlike Dark Age of Camelot, they don't visibly upgrade and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That was kind of over the top for us in Dark Age. And we have so many other systems in Warhammer that we try to keep to the core of the fun mechanism. You can claim keeps. There is some upgrade mechanisms where as a guild I can upgrade my keep, but in general those upgrades are things like the doors get stronger, there's different NPCs that will spawn within the keep that you can use for different merchant services, ammunition, that kind of stuff. But in general the keep look